Hi, welcome to the new edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline. I'm Mike Migliori. We've got Al Levine down on the other end, and in between us we have Marty Galosi, Senior Associate Athletic Director from Robert Morris. Smoking Jim Frazier is on his way, but apparently tonight is the first time that most Pittsburgh drivers have seen rain, and you don't know what to do in it, so he's been held up a little bit, but he'll be here soon. We're going to start out as we usually do, and we're going to start with our guest. Marty, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, Mike, first of all, thank you for having me. Al, thank you for having me this evening. Happy to be here tonight. And what's on my mind? Well, as I got to thinking about that question, I have a question for my two co-hosts here tonight. What's the better division, the SEC West or the AFC West? The SEC Western Division in college football is absolutely unbelievable. And the SEC itself is just an incredible conference when you think about the level of play that's being played in that level of college football. You have number one LSU, which is first in the SEC West currently. Number two, Alabama, which is second in the SEC West. And number three, Arkansas, which is third in the SEC West. And the fourth school in that division of the SEC, just a little school known as Auburn, which won the national championship last year after a perfect season. So as I look at that, I think, well, you got the Raiders, the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs, the Steelers' opponent this Sunday. I got to thinking, which is the better of the two? And, there's always talk about the college football playoff, what should be done in Division I with the college football playoff. Well, this scenario really could play itself out this weekend. If Arkansas beats LSU, that means that Arkansas would be playing, if all the tiebreakers fall accordingly, would be playing in the SEC championship game against the Eastern champion, which would be someone like Georgia, which could result in, if everything falls according to like this in my little scenario, you could have LSU and Alabama potentially playing for the national championship without even playing in their conference championship. So I leave that as what's on my mind this evening.
Well, my personal answer is that the SEC is definitely the best division in college football. The ACC, probably the worst division in the National Football League, ACC West. But the ACC West has Tim Tebow, and nobody can beat him yet. Nobody has the answer for Tim. He's got a lot of help from God, and he's done pretty good so far, even though a lot of people are banging on him there. I do like your scenario, though. We talked about that last week a little bit. Unfortunately, if Arkansas beats LSU, it could turn out that the only unbeaten team in college football this year is the University of Houston, and they'll have absolutely no chance to play for the national championship. Again, we talked about it, and my scenario, the only way that it's going to change where there's actually a playoffs is if some year Notre Dame goes unbeaten and doesn't get to play for the national championship, because that will have people going crazy, and it will change the very next year, guaranteed. Al, what's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is what's on most of Pittsburgh's mind. Sidney Crosby. I'm sorry to steal some of your thunder here, Mike, but I'm a Penguins fan and a sports fan in general, and again, he lived up to the legacy of players like Mario Lemieux, where he come in, didn't miss a beat. At 5 minutes and 24 seconds into the first period, he scored his first goal in almost 11 months. Just that performance from one end of the rink to the other was fantastic. You got to give this kid a lot of credit. And then I'm listening to these talk shows, and I'm not going to mention which ones, but almost on all of them they're talking about he was so happy the expletive deletive that come out of his mouth. They're making such a big controversy on that. ESPN didn't even show that because I don't know what their censors are doing there. That was just an emotion. They could have said he said, heck yeah, instead of what he actually said. He was just very happy. He's an emotional leader. And imagine yourself at that age being not allowed to play your sport and you're one of the best in the world. And he come back and 2 goals, 2 assists. That's what's on my mind. Fantastic performance.
Well, that wasn't actually my thunder. That was the cheers from the people at the Consol Energy Center that you heard. It sounded like thunder even all the way out here in Dormont.
Bethel Park, I must
Well, you're in Bethel Park now. I was in Dormont watching the show.
We heard it
Thank
in
you
Bethel
very
Park.
much. But what I was thinking that is on my mind is last week somebody asked the question, why is it that some small market teams do well in baseball and others don't? Like the Pirates, why do they not? Well, today they announced the National League MVP, and that turned out to be Ryan Braun from the Milwaukee Brewers. Coming in second runner-up was Matt Kemp from the Dodgers, and third runner-up was Prince Fielder, also from the Brewers. Braun was drafted in 2005 when the Pirates passed on him to take Andrew McCutchen. Well, McCutchen's a pretty good player, but he's not the National League MVP. In 2003, the Pirates passed on Matt Kemp to take Paul Maholm, who was an okay left-handed pitcher, but he's not the third runner-up or second runner-up for the National League MVP. And in 2002, the Pirates had the #1 pick, and they picked Brian Bullington. And I can't even tell you what he is, but he's not Cecil Fielder, that's for sure. And that's why the Pirates don't do as well as other small market teams, because there's nobody in the organization that has any idea how to judge baseball talent. And as far as the call-ins that you were talking about with Sidney Crosby, I'm sure they're from the same people, and I listen to the same channels that you do, and I know that the one is filled with nothing but Steelers shills who will tell you it's okay to rape some girl in a bathroom in Georgia as long as you win the Super Bowl, but Sidney Crosby can't use some foul language because, well, he's not a role model if he does that. You know, the best thing to do is to turn that channel off, rip the knob off your radio dial so that you can never go back there and throw it out the window and watch this show instead, where we're much more intelligent, much more knowledgeable, much more informative, and definitely much more entertaining.
I was going to say, and better looking, too.
Absolutely better, especially tonight. Look at that nice suit. Look, wow.
I wanted to keep up with
I need to throw mine away.
I wanted to look good, as good as you, if I could.
I'm glad I didn't wear a suit. I can't compete with you, Marty. You're welcome here anytime, just for
you.
GQ.
Thank you.
No kidding. This didn't cost as much as the tag that came on that one.
You added a lot of class to the show.
Well,
Thank you.
I try.
Oh, and you know what? Right now, before we go on for the rest of the show, looks like our partner just arrived here. We're going to go to a little break, and when we come back, we'll see what's on Jim Frazier's mind. Or maybe not.
I can keep
okay,
talking.
there we go.
If you need me to talk, I'll keep talking here.
Now let's let Jim come on in.
Hey, you ready? Of course I am. What are you waiting for? I was waiting for you. So we're gonna continue the puppy thing real quick. Okay, places everyone. In a minute! Do I have to do everything myself? You can't do it all by yourself.
I have to say that...
Sure I can.
No, he can't. And neither can I. So why don't you come on down to BPTV and help us make some of the great community programs you see on this station every day.
Yeah.
I mean, we can help you make your TV show ideas a reality.
It's pretty awesome.
So come on down. I mean, I am pretty good, but I'm sure I could use your help.
Well, welcome back. We're sorry about that glitch. Sometimes it happens like that with live TV when people don't show up on time. But while we're on the subject, Jim, what's on your mind tonight besides the traffic?
Hey, thanks a lot, Magic Mike. I tell you what, my man Tiger Woods on November 6th came in third in the golf tournament, so you know what that means. The ladies will be back. Speaking of ladies, Jamie Dixon allowed Long Beach State to come into the Peterson Event Center and beat Pitt down. So we could be looking at another Sweet 16 season for the University of Pittsburgh. And can everybody leave Franco Harris alone? Franco Harris stood up for Joe Paterno, a man who's been like a father figure to him for nearly 50 years. Franco Harris is a friend of mine. We co-MC one event every year because he's so extremely busy. I guess he'll have more time now. Hey, listen, my upset special of the week last week was Upper St. Clair over Central Catholic. Central Catholic is the #1 rated team in the WPIAL. They were the #1 rated team in the state. They were a top 25 team according to USA Today, and the game wasn't even close. Look for another LSU-Alabama rematch for the national championship. And Tebow! As an NFL scout, I took a lot of heat when I said that Tim Tebow, when he was coming out of Florida, deserved to be a first-round draft choice in the National Football League as a quarterback. If you remember, a lot of people said no way he could play quarterback, maybe an H-back. And then I took more heat when I compared Tim Tebow to NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Steve Young. And I stand by that today. Listen, when Steve Young came out of BYU, he didn't go right into the NFL. He signed a 40-year, $40 million contract to play in the USFL for the LA Express. He was a huge bust there. He went on to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he continued to be a bust, but he continued to work and developed into a Hall of Fame quarterback. Tim Tebow's not a Hall of Famer right now, but he got a Hall of Fame work ethic. He got Hall of Fame talent, and nobody's going to outwork that young man. And everybody knows, finally, that I'm not a big Andrew Luck fan. Andrew Luck, for all you Andrew Luck lovers, Andrew Luck has thrown at least one interception in the last 4 games. So all you teams that want to suck for Luck, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it.
Well, thanks, Jim. A little bit of a recap. I believe we may have mentioned LSU and Alabama and Tim Tebow, but it's always good to have your opinion thrown in on top of it too. Why not? And actually, I don't know. Isn't there was some local team, some local quarterback was saying something about drafting Andrew Luck for the Steelers here, as possibly a backup or a replacement. But it's interesting to me you brought up Young, because I think that he may have been the second greatest quarterback of all time. Unfortunately, he had to sit on the bench and watch the all-time greatest quarterback play all through his prime. Eventually, he got a chance to go, and he did win a Super Bowl. But I think Joe Montana probably just outshined him a little bit, and that's too bad, because sometimes when you're the second best and you have to watch the best, it's a hard thing. We talked about that before. I always said that I think the second greatest football team of all time was the Houston Oilers in the 70s, they just had nowhere to go because the greatest football team of all time, the Steelers of the 70s, was playing on the same field.
Well, I got to respect any man that would wear an Indianapolis Colts hat at this juncture in the football season. So I've only just met Jim, but I have tremendous respect for him and his feeling, his self-esteem about himself for wearing that. But not every team is like the Steelers and is lucky enough to have a quarterback essentially walk in from college right into a starting role and lead him to the Super Bowl in his second season. I just can't imagine how do the Colts, if they do run the table here, which it looks like they very well might do, how do they not draft Luck? And you're going to draft him, you're going to pay him all that money, and he's going to sit behind Peyton Manning if indeed Peyton Manning comes back. I heard this discussion the other day I think it was on the radio, and how in the world could you have him sit behind him? There is pressure to win right away, and if they're coming off an 0-for season, what's your decision? Do you go with Andrew Luck, or do you go back with Peyton Manning and draft Andrew Luck and sit him for a couple of years? Who knows? That remains to be seen. But I think there's no way that you can't draft the kid. The pedigree is there. The background is there. I think the Colts would absolutely have to go with him.
Marty, you're a guest to our show, and you're about to hear why they cannot draft Luck. And I'm going to do the setup. I'm going to serve a nice little volleyball up for Jim. Go ahead, Jim. Take it away, Smoking Jim.
We'll talk about it later.
Go ahead.
I'll address that. A lot of people feel that same way, and me personally, I'm not very high on Andrew Luck. I wouldn't take him in the first 3 rounds. I think he has a terrible left knee injury. If you see that knee brace on it, if you watch any of the games, they got a tremendous running game. The game that they recently played against USC in Oregon, the running back had 20 carries in the first half. So if you analyze that and you break down the tape, that means he's seeing 8 men in the box to stop the run. So it's an easy throw. I've never seen him throw the ball over 50 yards. I don't think he has much arm strength. But, teams, there's going to be a lot of pressure for teams to take him with the first pick overall because guys like Mel Kiper said he's the best quarterback they've seen since John Elway. Of course, they've been wrong before.
I have a question for both of you guys. There were some rumors or some statement made that there's an option of like $25 million to keep Peyton Manning, that they may have to make a decision on that. Now, depending on his health, what's the team going to do? And I think that comes up, at the end of the season or so. So I don't know if you've heard that, because I did hear that was mentioned, that there's this $25 million option. But what if he's not really healthy? What if the stem cells didn't take and the European treatments didn't work? I mean, there's no talk about when his time, to get back on the field is going to happen.
Well, I think obviously the health issue is going to drive the decision. They're not going to spend $25 million on him if he's not going to be able to play, and they'll know that before they have to make that decision. If he's not going to be able to play, then you're right. They probably have to take Andrew Luck. If they don't, and they end up with another bad season afterwards, well, then the fans are going to do pretty much what fans do everywhere, and especially here. They'll be carrying on. They'll be calling the talk shows, and they'll still keep going to the games because that's what they do. But there'll be a lot of upheaval for it. So they're going to have to make that decision. If Peyton Manning's ready to play, how much longer will he play? He's got a devastating injury right now. Whether he comes back whole from that or just partial, it's always a possibility that that's going to happen again. You have to make a plan to back that up, especially a team that has had so much success and still has all the other working parts. As we may have heard before, Peyton Manning is probably the one player that should win the NFL MVP in a season that he's never played a game, because he's obviously the key to the Indianapolis Colts.
Come on, Magic Mike. You know for a fact if Indianapolis Colts have 2 losing seasons in a row in the middle of the night, the Ursay owners will pack up the Mayflower and move that team to Los Angeles.
Not again. Jim, come on. Can they afford to do that? Times have changed.
No, I think the people of Baltimore they may not have liked that. I think they just have to be grateful that there wasn't any room in Indianapolis for the Orioles. But we do have a special guest here today. Marty, tell us a little bit about what's going on at Robert Morris. I know you got a lot of stuff happening there, a nice basketball team, and we're really interested in hearing later on about the hockey.
Well, yes, basketball season is underway. Colonials are 2-1 on the season. Tonight, as a matter of fact, playing down at James Madison to try to go to 3-1. So the men's basketball team is off and running. Last year, our first season under our new head coach, Andrew Toole, the youngest coach in NCAA Division I at the time, just 30 years old. Wow. And he's a really amazing guy. He's 30 going on 55. That's his knowledge level, his understanding of the game. He's a University of Pennsylvania grad, so that Ivy League background I'm sure has come in handy. But he came in with Mike Rice when Mike came to Robert Morris in 2007, and I think you all know what he did in his time at Robert Morris. 3 postseasons, first year in the NIT, the second 2 in the NCAA, and his last season a near upset of Villanova in the NCAA tournament, and then Mike went on to Rutgers. So Coach Toole got us to the Northeast Conference Championship game last year where we lost to Long Island in overtime, but still a great season, and that team is really off and running and doing well. And so we're looking forward to what they have to offer, and you were talking about Pitt playing tonight at the Pete against LaSalle, and Robert Morris will play at the Pete against Pitt on Sunday, so that's coming up.
Well, I hate to jump in and interrupt right now. I want to put out 2 things. First, we are now able to accept phone calls. If anybody watching would like to call in, make a comment, ask a question, our number here is 412-831-3304. Again, it's 412-831-3304. So if you want to get involved, give us a call in, and we'll be glad to talk to you. And Marty, you kind of touched on something that I wanted to ask you, is that being a smaller school, when you do get success, you do find success, successful basketball or football coach or whatever, it seems like it's hard to hold on to those guys because they start to get offers and they start to want to move up to maybe a more well-known school or whatever. How hard is it to continue to keep the standard that you have?
Well, that comes with the territory. There's most coaches, even at the highest level, you have coaches who are looking to move to another level, move to the NFL, move to a bigger school. It's just one of those things that comes with the territory. We're aware of it. We're under the thought process that we try to hire the absolute best coach we can get our hands on. Even if we only have him for 1 year, that's simply the way it goes in college athletics. A lot of times, and I don't have to tell you guys know this probably better than anybody, that this may come as a shock to you, but not every coach finishes out their entire contract.
That is a shock. First time I heard that. Sorry, Marty.
It's okay.
I'm not trying to steal anything.
Yeah, it does happen. So that's something that we're very well aware of, but Mike Rice helped us make our mark, and I think Andy Toole is going to help us make our mark just as well. And again, if you only have him for a couple of years, the guy's 30 years old. I mean, there's probably he'll probably have other opportunities if he builds Robert Morris up, which we think he will.
How many years is he under contract?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I have access to his contract, but no, we'd like to keep him as long as we can.
Since you brought it up,
yeah, since he's only 30,
right. At least a 5-year deal.
I would hope so, right.
And let's talk about some of your alumni. I mean, there's a lot of pride in Robert Morris. You got guys who talk a big game. Do your past alumnus, do they come back and support? My good friend is general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Kevin Colbert. He's always talking about how much he enjoyed his experience at Robert Morris. Does he still come around?
That's a good one. That's a good one you brought him up. Yes, Kevin, I've met him on several occasions, and he is just as down to earth as you could possibly be. And I don't know if maybe you know this. He actually coached basketball when he was at Robert Morris. He was a recruiter for Matt Verjanik, the head coach at the time, and Matt would send him on the road. He'd go out and judge basketball talent. That's really Kevin Colbert. A lot of what he did when he was at Robert Morris was help coach basketball. I know he's a huge hockey fan. You can see him at whenever we play at the Consol Energy Center. I know I see him and his son coming to the game. So, and yes, I do see him around. He does come back to Robert Morris on several occasions. So yes, that's clearly an alum that we're very, very proud of, and good to have him as a friend.
Well, you mentioned the game against Pitt on Sunday. Pitt looks like, well, not the same Pitt as last year so far, and that might not be a game that's out of reach for you this year. That'd be a pretty good feather in Robert Morris' hat if they could knock off Pitt. I think that's a possibility. But when a school like Robert Morris has that game coming up, where most people probably don't expect you to be able to win that, how do you guys look at that? How does it, when you're preparing for a game like that, how does that either motivate you or however it is that you look at it?
Well, it goes without saying that that's a very difficult matchup for us, and if it would certainly be a nice game to win, seeing as how we are. I want to say it's in the 20s. I know that we've lost to Pitt every single time. As a matter of fact, they have an incredible record against Northeast Conference schools. They are undefeated against NEC schools. So it would be kind of unfair to judge our season based upon what we do in that game. But at the same time, it's a game that our kids get excited for. Needless to say, it's the local big school, and it's tough to judge your season based upon that. You have bigger, stronger guys, but I think our guys go in there and play with a lot of heart. They play with a lot of determination, and we'll see what happens on Sunday. I think I think right now it's a matter of getting into the season, trying to play against these mid-majors that we're playing against right now, the James Madisons, the Penns, the Riders, and then just seeing where we stand after that. As a matter of fact, right after the Pitt game, we jump right into our conference season. We host Fairleigh Dickinson and Monmouth next weekend, so the rubber really meets the road right there, right off the bat in December. We get into conference play.
Marty, I was wondering, what do the kids say after they go to a game like that? Because there's a lot of interaction with AAU and other sports around here. Do they bring up that, oh, you should have seen me slam the ball on so-and-so? Or do they talk about that stuff when you're around, or do you hear any of that?
No, I do know that, the Pitt, the Duquesne, the Robert Morris, the West Virginia, even some of the Penn State players, they do know each other from the summer league out of Green Tree, and those guys play together a lot. So they do know each other very well, but I think that all gets put aside when it gets down to the serious part of the season. And they know each other. They probably know each other's strengths and weaknesses probably better than they know maybe some of the guys they might play against in the conference, just because they do see each other. Probably a lot of guys play on the same teams together in the summer league. So right. I think there's a lot of familiarity there. That's for sure.
Thanks.
All right. Well, in addition to your basketball, you got you're covering all the other sports. What else? What other sports have you excited this year? I guess male and female. And well, I personally am excited about the Frozen Four coming to Pittsburgh, and I know you guys had a role in that. I'd like to hear more about all of that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, our women's hockey team is off to a 7-1-1 start. They won
hockey?
Women's hockey.
Wow.
Yeah. It's in the Olympics and everything. 7-1-1. School. They've only won 6 games all of last year. They're on a school record unbeaten streak, so they're doing quite well. And our women's basketball team is off to a 3-0 start for the first time in 30 years. So we're very excited about that. But you asked about the Frozen Four, Mike, and yes, it's very exciting to be a part of that. A year and a half ago, Robert Morris submitted a bid to host the Frozen Four in partnership with the Consol Energy Center, Visit Pittsburgh, and a lot of help from the Penguins. We thank them for that, and we were able to land the Frozen Four in 2013. We'll be crowning a national champion in men's ice hockey right in the city of Pittsburgh.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's a
Congratulations.
first. Yes, thank you.
That's quite an accomplishment here.
We are looking forward to that. College hockey, if you haven't seen a lot of college hockey, I think you'll be hooked when you see it. You have the marching bands, you have mascots on skates. It's a lot of good stuff. And the traditional powers are not ones you would typically think of because we're so ingrained with the traditional powers in college basketball and college football. And in college hockey, you have schools like Minnesota Duluth and Merrimack and some of the big schools, Wisconsin, Boston College. And we hope Robert Morris is on the rise, too, to become a national power. But, again, we'll host that event in April of 2013. And we couldn't be more excited about bringing that event to the city of Pittsburgh and giving people in Pittsburgh the opportunity to see college hockey at the absolute highest level.
And 2 weeks ago, since we're making the transition of the sports, 2 weeks ago I'm an NFL scout, and I got a phone call. I'm not allowed to mention the team from the Atlanta Falcons, and they're high on a player for Robert Morris. Is it Saheed King? Number 7. Shadrack King. And they think that he got NFL potential, and they're looking to interview him at one of the postseason All-Star games. So
that's great. No, he's a tremendous player. The guy, he catches everything. Tight end, big, strong kid. When he holds that football, it looks like a softball in his hand. He catches everything. We had a tough season this year, but Shadrack is a wonderful player out of McKeesport, a local product, and 4 great years at Robert Morris. He's a tremendous player, big, strong, catches everything thrown his way.
And it's amazing that you said that, because if you can talk briefly about one of my all-time favorites, Joe Walton. People that go back to Chuck Noll, the greatest coach of all time. Chuck Noll hired Joe Walton, who was ahead of his time, because Chuck Noll hired him as an offensive coordinator because preparing for Joe Walton's teams was always the toughest for Chuck Noll. But Joe Walton always liked to use 3 tight ends. And if you look around the National Football League, almost every team got great tight ends. Joe Walton was ahead of his time.
Yeah, Coach Walton, he's a unique guy. We're going to have him for 2 more years, and his contract extension went through the 2013 athletic season, and he will retire at that time after 20 years as our head coach. Started the program completely from scratch, and fast forward to he has a stadium named after him. We've won 7 Northeast Conference championships. Went to the NCAA playoffs last year. He's a unique guy. And, he's done so much for Robert Morris University. Put us on the map in terms of football, and we couldn't be prouder to have him. And now he's 2 more years, and then he will retire.
How old is he, Marty?
I do know that.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not quizzing you.
Coach Walton will be 76 if he doesn't mind me saying.
Wow, he got 8 more years in him.
Oh. It must be the water in this neighborhood. No, that's good. Thanks. I have a couple questions for you, a little off subject, but how did you get involved with being an athletic director and the sports and doing what you do?
Well, I wasn't much of an athlete. I can tell you that. If you see my golf game, you would know that right away. But I just had a vision that I wanted to be involved with athletics. It's a great career. I went to did my undergraduate at Miami of Ohio, and I got my master's at Ohio State in sport management. I just knew I wanted to be involved with sports. Since I couldn't play, I wanted the next best thing, and I was the sports information director at Allegheny College for 2 years, and I was the SID at Robert Morris for 11 years, and now I've been involved with marketing and external affairs now for the past 11 at Robert Morris, and it's a great place.
And where did you grow up around here?
Originally was in Munhall.
Oh, okay.
And my dad worked for U.S. Steel, worked at the old Duquesne Works.
Right.
And when those sort of started closing down, he was transferred to Cincinnati, and we spent some time out there. So I had to defend the honor of Pittsburgh, and believe me,
you did well. You survived.
It was not always easy, but I never wanted to switch allegiances. But boy, you get outnumbered sometimes, and that's a weird feeling. All of a sudden, you're outnumbered. But it was easy to remain a Pittsburgher at heart, and when I had a chance to come back, I did just that.
Because I was going to ask you, how did you get to Miami of Ohio, but now we know you lived around there.
Right.
So that helps.
And I tell you what, one of the greatest sports towns, college-wise, anywhere in the country is Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio. I'll tell you what, it's great. How many tattoos do you have?
None.
Well, how many cars do you have?
Just one. It's
9.
It's an 03 Taurus, and it barely got me here tonight.
Oh, that's too
And
much
where'd you get your Super Bowl ring from, coaches?
No, this is our Northeast Conference
that's
championship
beautiful.
ring from
Show that for the
from
camera.
basketball from 2 years
Here,
ago.
we have a great camera
Let's
guy.
flip it over.
Well, see if he can get that on there. That's
Oh, they didn't trust the brother to grab onto that.
oh, sorry. I'll let you hold it. I was doing it.
We'll hand it down
Here, wait.
to Jim.
Try it on. Try it on, Smokey.
I can't get it off, man. Oh, that's beautiful. That's
nice.
beautiful.
Don't give it to me.
Get a little bling in the job. So that's always nice.
You know what? That has some nice weight to it if you check the price of gold lately. I think $1,700 an ounce.
Melt that baby down.
You might have 2 ounces there. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
You know we're just kidding you around about some of this, but it's interesting knowing somebody in the field doing this. Now, how do you go about promoting this? Who are you going to, which media types do you see? Do you have different contacts?
Regarding the Frozen Four?
Yeah, the Frozen Four.
Well, I think it'll probably pretty much take care of itself, although I don't think we don't want to take that for granted. I think throughout the entire process, one thing that I want to do is I want to make sure I tell the Robert Morris hockey story as much as I can, that we started the program in 2004 completely from scratch, and it's been a rough go at times. We're now on a conference where we feel at home in Atlantic hockey, where we play a lot of like-minded schools like ourselves. That has not been an easy transition, but I think by playing the game annually at the Consol Energy Center, we have the RMU Hockey Showcase coming up on December 30th. By playing those games annually, we bring hockey right downtown, although we like to have people come out to our home rink out at the Island Sports Center out on Neville Island too. So promoting it, hopefully we don't have to do a whole lot to promote, but we'll certainly do our best to get the word out in Pittsburgh and make sure people know about it. And I think it'll take care of itself.
Well, anything we can do to promote you on our show, we're going to do that for you. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I was at the Consol Energy Center a few weeks ago, and my cousin is the head coach of Pitts Club Hockey, so I told him I'd give him a little plug.
Wow.
Stu Rolnick, and we're going to try to go out there next week. We have permission to film a little bit and get a couple interviews with the players, because they'll be at that event that you're talking about on the 30th. They're playing. I'm not sure who they're playing.
They're playing us, yeah.
Okay.
There's 3 games that day. It's the Robert
Okay.
Morris NCAA women's team at 1, and then the 2 club teams from Pitt and Robert Morris at 4. And then 7:30, Robert Morris plays Ohio State, who's ranked number 9 in the nation right now. So that'll be a stern test for the Colonials that night.
We needed permission to film club hockey.
No, just from the university there. I had to get the coach's permission. And that is my cousin, so come on now. You were late.
Well, we've been talking a little bit about hockey here, and well, the big news in Pittsburgh sports today is that Sidney Crosby did make his comeback last night. And, well, we put on quite a show. You guys, I guess, have seen that, or at least seen the highlights. He came out, 2 goals, 2 assists.
I watched it.
And opened up, 5 minutes into the game, scored his first goal after coming back.
5:24.
What a great show they put on last night. And you know what? Sidney Crosby, even though he did put on a great show, was not the best player on the ice last night. Marc-Andre Fleury threw a shutout. Maybe the only time that you'll see a goalie throw a shutout in a game and not be the number 1 or even the number 2 star. Naturally, they made Crosby the number 1 star, and Pasquale Dupuis the number 2 star with 3 assists, and then Fleury for his shutout. But everybody was playing great last night. I guess Crosby coming back gave everybody a big boost. Right now, if you know anything about hockey, you probably already figured that the Penguins are going to win the Stanley Cup this year. Right now, it's hard to imagine them not being a major contender for the Stanley Cup. It's such a great combination of talent, and Crosby, either Crosby or Malkin or maybe Fleury, is the best player in hockey right now, and the other 2 are right behind whoever the number 1 is. It's hard to make a decision, actually. But guys, what are your thoughts on that? I don't see anybody that can beat the Penguins in a 7-game series right now.
With the system that they have, they bought into it totally. These players have been playing this system. They know how to score. There's good teamwork. They're number one in penalty kills. And last night, another offensive thing where you talk about Sydney lifting up their game. They also hit 3 posts. So imagine what the score would have been then. So he did lift up their game. I don't see anybody really beating them and stopping them from the Stanley Cup. I'm with Mike on this one. They had a great team before, and now it'll be a top notch.
And what I'm so impressed with the Penguins about, and like Mike talked about it last week, is they do everything first class. Not only do they got the best team, the best players, the best owner, but Console Energy Center, you can't beat a better arena than that to play your home game. So I'm very proud of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Watching that game last night, I just couldn't help but think of and then you draw the comparison of the Lemieux comeback in 2000, and I'm sitting there watching, and I'm thinking, when's Sid going to do something? Because I just knew he was going to do something. And 5 minutes in, he scores a goal, and then he scores another one, and he has 2 assists. What an unbelievable game after being out for whatever it was, 10 months.
Right.
The guy he's off the chart.
And that second goal was just unbelievable. It looked like it bounced off the other player and catapulted into the net. I mean, just to have talent like that. You knew the great ones all do step up. Look at from any sport, you name it, from walk-off home runs to catches in football games and Super Bowls, coming back from injury, comeback players. And now look, Sid's only 25 points behind the leading scorer. So that's another point to consider.
Well, he's on a pretty good pace, 4 points a game. I don't know if he can keep that up or not, but I would guess that by Christmas he will have caught the
to interrupt you, Letang said that he's on pace to get 240 points.
Well, okay.
60 games. So.
But I would bet right now that Crosby will catch by Christmas time. Will catch Kessel in the from Toronto as the league's leading scorer. Wow. Again, he's got a great supporting cast. Plays very well with Dupuis and Kunitz. I think that I personally would not change that line. I'd keep him with that line. It's comfortable, let him get comfortable with it. But the Malkin line's very good, and it was really good. I mean, nice for me at least to see Jordan Stahl back with Matt Cook and Tyler Kennedy. I've always liked that line. And when you're a team like that, where you can roll out 3 lines like that, which any one of those 3 lines could be a top line on any other team, and their 4th line is not all that bad either, with guys like Adams and Park. It was just a great thing to see. We have the best defense in the league, and as I said before, I wouldn't trade Marc-Andre Fleury for any 2 or 3 goalies in the league. I think that right now he is the best in the league, and I've always thought Marty Brodeur was the best of all time, but Fleury's got a long way to go, and who knows, he may catch up with him.
And as we transition back and forth and ping pong a little bit different sports, I like to get my this weekend is the WPIL High School Football Championship Finals, which it'll be 4 games, 8 teams, which many of the players will probably be playing collegiately at Robert Moore's. But I have some upset specials. If Stowe Rock has any heart, I know that a lot of their players are probably taking basket weaving in gym class this year because half of them flunked out of school, but they're all eligible this year. I look for Stowe Rocks to upset Clairton and stop their 40-plus game winning streak. That's my upset special of the week. I also like Jeanette and Demetrius Cox, great quarterback who played Division I wide receiver or defensive back. Also, Roy Hall's an excellent coach at Jeanette. I look for them to upset a young El Equipa team that's just been blowing everybody out. And so that's my upset special. And I like in AAA, I like Montour against the field. It don't matter who they play. They're playing knock. I like Montour. And I have no opinion on North Allegheny and Upper St. Clair. I can't bet against Art Walker, not junior, but senior, who I think is coaching that team.
I have a question for you. What happened with the City League Championship?
City League Championship went to, I tell you what, I was there Saturday. the most physical defensive high school football game I've seen in a long, long time. Alderdice in a brand new team, University Prep, played to a 0-0 tie through 3 quarters, but cream always rises to the top. A kid that I said was one of the best top 10 City League running backs of all time, and maybe the best all-around City League player because he's being recruited. I can't say where he's going to go to school, Cincinnati. Jalen Coleman ran for 188 yards and a couple touchdowns in the fourth quarter in UPrep in their first year of existence under assistant coach Mike Logan, who's doing a great, better job as an assistant coach than he did on the radio. Mike Logan and UPrep is City League champions. They play State College in the first round of Quad A PIAAs this week.
Well, thanks for that update. But since you've been educating me about the city football and other recruiting type abilities, I just heard Mike Logan and UPrep, their first year, they're in the championship game. Are they doing any recruiting here, my friend?
Well, they're a combination of 3 schools that went away, so that was enough recruiting in itself. And I'm sure that a lot of kids in the city will want to, migrate to UPrep like they did in the 90s and the early 2000s to Perry.
Right.
So.
What schools did they merge to get this school or this conglomeration? Do you know?
One was Peabody. Shenley was the other one, and there was a third one, and I can't recall which one that was.
Okay.
They're closing so fast, I'm not sure.
Oh, I know.
Well,
I understand.
speaking of high school football recruiting, Jim, you got to be proud that Gateway once again went most of the way. I don't know how they lost to, but this upcoming game, I personally like Upper St. Clair to upset North Allegheny. I think they have the team to do it. I think that it's going to probably be a good game, a tough game, but I think Upper St. Clair can come back with a championship. I don't know once you get past the WPIL how far into the state they can go, but I think that they've got a good shot of winning the championship this year.
And I tell you one thing about Gateway, we not only do we recruit, but we don't hide it. But just think, Jalen Rose, who's all-state running back and linebacker for UPrep, was at Gateway the day before training camp when they ruled him ineligible. So if Gateway would have had Jalen Coleman, they'd still be playing right now.
Great point, Jim. I knew you'd come back with something here. You didn't waste any time on Mike there.
Zip code, we had that zip code wrong, man.
If they had Jalen Rose, they'd have a heck of a basketball team.
You know what, Marty? Don't rule that out, because I wouldn't be surprised to see Andrew Luck playing for Gateway next year.
He might be out of eligibility.
I'm not going to say that when Terry Smith got the job, he bought an apartment building to start moving players into. I'm probably going to say they gave it to him.
Well, I have to add something. I'm listening to this sports talk show on Saturday morning, and my friend Smokin' Jim taught me. I'm not going to mention the name of the fan, but I was listening to it Saturday morning. And now I believe how honest you are, Mike, and this confirms it. I'm listening to it, and the guy talks about Terry Smith having an apartment building, and they're talking about recruiting. And a guy calls in and said, oh, they run a pretty straight program. The one kid, all he had to do is just use this address. And they go, where's the address at? The apartment buildings that Terry Smith owns. And they go, that's how he was able to play. He didn't even have to live there. So they went a step beyond what you guys have been teaching me here.
We don't hide.
You guys are very enlightening. So.
I'm telling you, Jim and I did another show once, and we had Pete Marino on, and I used to joke about University of Woodland Hills recruiting and Gateway recruiting. But we had Pete Marino, who is probably the greatest high school football coach of all time, definitely the greatest high school football coach from around here. And he said, oh, yeah, he said, we recruited Jimmy out of Penn Hills because Jim played for him. And I was like, say it again. He said, yeah, he used to live in Penn Hills. We got him to come out to Monroeville so he could play for us. It's not a joke, really.
Well, Marty, we're glad we have you as a guest, and I'm sure there's no recruiting that's going on like this with your school. There's no way. We're just talking these local schools and high schools, so hopefully none of that's happening. And, we do want to thank you for being on the show. We got off track a little bit on talking with you about all the special events that you have. But you see, this is just like sitting in your couch or in your office and talking sports, your sports, our sports, and Pittsburgh sports. So, if you have anything to add there that you want to put out there on Robert Morris University, let us know now. Okay.
No, I think we pretty well covered it. We had a pretty good discussion there, and I'm glad you asked about the Frozen Four. We're just so excited about that. But I won't jump into the high school conversation. I'll steer clear of that. Although I do enjoy WPIAL championship. I think everybody does. You can't not love those kids getting the opportunity to play at Heinz Field, 4 games in one day. It's a really, very, very cool event.
That's great. Hey, could you go back to the December 30th that you have? How many are they selling out the whole place, Console Energy? Because when I was there, they limited the seating because that was the city game, and there were only 1,000 people or so, and it was a great way to see hockey. So I was wondering, do you have full access to the whole Console Energy?
Right. No, I'd say there's probably just lower bowl seating at this point. It's not been an event where we've sold. I think our best crowd we ever had was 5,000. Although last year we had an opportunity to play RIT down there. It was the day, if you all recall, the day the Wilkes-Barre Scranton played Hershey that night, the Winter Classic week, and what a great atmosphere for our kids to be a part of. It was probably 8,000 to 10,000 people watching us play. But for this event, primarily lower bowl seating, so a lot of good seats available.
And what will it cost to go to the game? Do you know the fee?
Tickets, I believe, with tax, I'm going to say they start around $12 to $13. To see 3 hockey games is not a bad deal. You're going to have a lower bowl seat, and Ticketmaster is the place to go for them.
Okay, and you're going to the Console on a very inexpensive price, and you get to see this great hockey that you guys put out there. So I'm all for it. I'll be there that day.
Good.
Well, as much as I would love to see a sports talk show in Pittsburgh not mention the Steelers, unfortunately, I guess we kind of have to. Jim, your greatest quarterback of all time, has a broken thumb. Again, has Roethlisberger ever gone into a bye week without a devastating injury that he's going to come back from and play the following week?
Well, you know what? Big Ben is the toughest guy to put on a uniform this side of Brett Favre. And, Ben has a broken thumb on his throwing hand. He's going to put a glove on. Matt Castle has a broken thumb, and he's out for a year. He's laying on his mommy's lap right now. So Big Ben is a guy who just continues to get up. I told you before, I took a lot of heat. Big Ben is, in my opinion, one of the top 5 greatest quarterbacks that ever played the game. And I tell you what, man, I can't say enough good things about that guy.
Personally, as I told you last week,
I don't believe
for a second that he has a broken thumb. And you know that if he did, he wouldn't be throwing a football in 2 weeks.
It's a slight fracture. On that station, I can't mention the fan, they mentioned that it was a slight fracture. Unlike Jay Cutler, who's done, Castle's done. He'll just put the glove on, and he's been wearing that glove mysteriously, sort of like some other icon that used to wear a glove. I don't want to get into that.
Michael
Jim,
Jackson.
I didn't say that. Jim's sitting right next. Ow, quit stabbing me, Jim.
Well, I'll tell you, I know people say that he's tough, and Rick Tocchet in 1992 got hit in the jaw with 5 minutes left in the second period. It shattered his jaw, got hit in the jaw with a puck. In the third period, he missed the rest of that period, but in the third period, he came out and scored a hat trick. That's tough. Clint Malarchuk, goalie for the Buffalo Sabres, was actually next to a hockey fight. Skate came up, cut his throat, and he laid on the ice bleeding until the trainers came up and got him out of there. A week later, he was back in goal. Hockey players, I think, might be much tougher than football players.
Well, I think so, but there's nobody in any sport tougher than Big Ben. Full speed, no helmet on, hit through a windshield, and didn't even miss that season. And I think when you look at tough in the dictionary, There's a big sign. There's a picture of Big Ben Roethlisberger next to it.
I'll have to take a look at it.
I looked the other day.
You can bet that I will be
I
in
see
here with
it
the
like-
dictionary next week.
I see you like Big Ben a little bit. But getting back to hockey being one of the toughest sports, think about this for a second. You had goaltenders who did not wear a mask, and they stayed in the goal and blocked these pucks. And what do they come at you, 100 miles an hour? Maybe more sometimes. And they get a little harder being frozen there. So not only are they strong and tough, but they're crazy. Because who in their right mind would stay in front of a puck like that? So they are pretty tough there.
Well, I don't know what's fact or fiction with injuries. It seems like the NFL pretty much dissects these injuries. You are either questionable if you have this injury or you are doubtful if you have this injury. I mean, if we want to start talking injuries, I'm not sure in National Hockey League what a lower body injury is. I mean, if I have my hands at my side and I have my hand hurt, is it a lower body injury or is it an upper body injury?
Great
I'm
point,
really
Marty.
not sure. But I do know this about Ben. He is gonna. Yeah, he obviously it sounds like he is gonna play. And I know the injury to Castle, the injury to Ben. Ben is just he's come so far. I remember I used to hold your breath whenever the Steelers got inside the red zone. Like, what's he gonna do here? Is he gonna turn it over? I watched Andy Dalton on Sunday, and you saw the rookie come out of him. He's had a great year, but you saw the rookie eventually come out of him. And with Ben, he's progressed so much, and he just doesn't get the national attention, in my opinion, that he deserves. You talk about Manning, you talk about Brady. It seems like the national writers will do everything they can to find another quarterback to talk about before they talk about Ben. Now it's Aaron Rodgers. Oh yeah, of course he's having a great year, but they'll talk about Drew Brees and they won't talk about Ben. And just all he does is win. So you know what? That's fine with us. We'll play it low key, and we'll see you in Indianapolis hopefully in February.
Well, we're starting to wind down here, but I'm going to answer one question for you now, Marty. The reason that in the National Football League they do your injuries, define your injuries, doubtful, probable, going to play, out, and in the National Hockey League they tell you absolutely nothing. They'll lie about their injuries. They don't want you to know who's hurt, who's playing, whatever. But the difference is that it's very hard around here to find a bookie that books hockey. Okay? You bet on football, and I guarantee that is why that is the only sport that tells you that defines their injuries like that. I guarantee you that's the reason. Nobody books hockey, so nobody gets into it quite that deep, unless like you're a fantasy hockey league owner. Then you want to know a little bit more about it. But in the NFL, they define everything, and if you're putting out false information, if your team's putting out false information, the NFL will fine you for that, and that's the truth. And
speaking of betting and bookies, Pitt still has a chance for a BCS game. I know everybody's excited. Anybody have an opinion of Pitt, West Virginia, backyard brawl?
Well, you know what? I thought it was terrible that Pitt and Syracuse decided to break and leave the Big East, and that stopped Texas Christian from coming, and now the Big East is falling apart. But the fact that Pitt still has a chance to win the Big East probably justifies the fact that the Big East is falling apart. It's a shame that game actually means something at this point, because both teams are terrible.
And my favorite team, other than Robert Morris, is University of Arizona, because they hired Rich Rodriguez. Go Arizona, good job.
Coach Rod there. Interesting. Well, who do you like with Pitt and West Virginia?
Well, my best friend is the defensive coordinator for West Virginia, Jeff Castile. And I know he's going to send everybody after Pitt. But I think it'll be very, very close. They play at West Virginia in Morgantown, so I think they have a little bit more experience. And I think that West Virginia should be the favorite, and they should win that game against you.
All right, Jim, thanks a lot. And Marty, thanks for coming. Al, thanks for coming. Good show tonight. A little bit of a glitch at the beginning. Next week we will have an active phone line. Please get ready to call in. And, thanks for watching tonight. We'll see you next week.